It was an ordinary evening at Marlowe's Diner, a small place tucked in a corner of a bustling city, when Katie, a kind-hearted waitress, witnessed something she couldn't ignore. A homeless man, thin and weary, stumbled into the diner to escape the bitter cold, only to face cruel harassment from a group of rowdy customers. Katie, with her strong sense of justice, defended the man. Little did she know, this seemingly small act of kindness would change her life forever. 3 hours later, men in suits would walk into the diner, turning her world upside down. Katie had been working at Marlowe's Diner for almost 3 years. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it paid the bills and helped her care for her sick mother. The days were long, and the tips weren't always great, but Katie didn't complain. She had grown up in a tough neighborhood, where survival depended on grit, and over the years, she had developed a strong sense of empathy for the less fortunate. She knew what it was like to struggle, to feel invisible. That evening, the diner was unusually busy. The warm lights inside contrasted with the cold wind outside, and the smell of coffee and fried food filled the air. Katie moved from table to table, her smile warm but her feet aching. As she served the regulars, she noticed a man sitting near the window, shivering in his ragged clothes. His hair was matted, his face drawn with exhaustion. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. Without thinking twice, Katie brought him a cup of coffee. "On the house," she said softly, offering him a sympathetic smile. The man looked up, his eyes filled with gratitude, but before he could thank her, a group of loud customers at the counter began making snide remarks. "Hey, what's this? You giving out charity now?" one of them sneered. "This place turning into a soup kitchen?" The others laughed, their cruel words slicing through the air. Katie's jaw clenched. She knew this type, the kind that found joy in making others feel small. She could feel the man shrinking under their stares, his hands trembling as he held the coffee cup. She couldn't stand by and let this happen. Taking a deep breath, Katie walked over to the group and said firmly, "If you don't have anything kind to say, you can take your food to go." The laughter stopped, and the men glared at her. One of them, a burly man with a mean glint in his eye, stood up and leaned toward her. "Who do you think you are? Just some waitress trying to play hero?" Katie didn't back down. "I'm someone who knows how to treat people with respect. If you can't do that, you're not welcome here." The tension in the diner was palpable. For a moment, it seemed like the man might lash out, but then he muttered something under his breath, threw some money on the counter, and stormed out. His friends followed, leaving behind a bitter silence. Katie felt her heart racing, but she didn't regret standing up for the homeless man. She walked back to him and smiled. "Don't mind them," she said. "Some people just don't know any better." The man looked up at her, tears welling in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. "You didn't have to do that." Katie shrugged. "Everyone deserves a little kindness." After the tension in the diner eased, Katie went back to her duties. The homeless man, who introduced himself as Jack, sat quietly, sipping his coffee. Katie noticed how fragile he looked, his cheeks hollow, his hands rough and weathered from years on the streets. Her heart ached for him. She had seen plenty of homeless people in the city, but something about Jack struck a chord deep within her. He wasn't just another face in the crowd, there was a quiet dignity about him, a sense of loss that he carried with him like a shadow. As the hours passed, the diner began to empty. Katie brought Jack a sandwich, insisting that he eat something more substantial than just coffee. He was hesitant at first but eventually accepted the food, his hunger overcoming his pride. They exchanged a few words. He mentioned having fallen on hard times, losing his job, and eventually his home. Katie listened, her empathy growing with every word he spoke. Suddenly, just as the night seemed to settle into its usual routine, the door swung open, and two men in suits walked in. They were out of place in the modest diner, their tailored suits and polished shoes stark against the worn-down interior. Katie noticed them immediately and felt a shiver run down her spine. They scanned the room, their eyes landing on Jack. The atmosphere shifted. The men approached Jack's table, their presence commanding attention. Katie stood behind the counter, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea who they were or what they wanted, but something about their demeanor was unsettling. "Mr. Jack Morrison," one of the men asked in a low, authoritative voice. Jack froze, his expression unreadable. He looked up at them, his face pale. I don't know what you're talking about." The other man stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We've been looking for you for a long time." Katie's mind raced. Who were these men? And why were they looking for Jack? She could feel the tension building, her instincts telling her that something was very wrong. Before Jack could respond, the first man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black envelope. He placed it on the table in front of Jack, his gaze steady. "This is for you. It's time." Jack stared at the envelope, his hands trembling. He didn't reach for it, didn't say a word. The men stood there for a moment longer before turning to leave. As they walked out of the diner, Katie felt a strange sense of foreboding. She had no idea what had just happened, but she knew one thing for sure: Jack's life was about to change, and so was hers. As the night wore on, Jack remained silent, staring at the envelope as if it held the weight of the world. Katie, concerned and curious, approached him. "Jack, who were those men? What's going on?" Jack finally looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. "I don't know how to explain this," he said quietly. "But those men, they're from my past. A past I've been trying to forget." Katie's heart raced. "What do you mean? Who are you, really?" Jack hesitated for a moment, then sighed deeply. "I wasn't always homeless, Katie. I used to be someone important. I had a family, a career, a life that most people would envy. But I made some terrible mistakes. I lost everything: my wife, my son, my job. I've been running from my past for years, trying to hide from the consequences of my actions." Katie listened intently, her mind reeling from the revelation. Jack continued, his voice heavy with regret. "Those men, they're here to take me back. Back to face the people I betrayed. I don't know what they want from me, but it can't be good." Katie felt a surge of sympathy for Jack. He was clearly a man haunted by his past, and now it had caught up to him. "You don't have to face this alone," she said softly. "I'll help you, whatever it is." Jack shook his head. "You don't understand, Katie. This is bigger than you or me. These men, they have power. They can ruin lives." Just as Jack finished speaking, the door to the diner opened again. This time, more men in suits entered, their expressions serious. Katie's heart sank as they approached Jack, their intentions clear. "It's time to go, Mr. Morrison," one of them said. Jack stood up, his body trembling. He looked at Katie one last time, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything." Before Katie could respond, the men escorted Jack out of the diner. She watched as they disappeared into the night, her mind racing with questions. Who was Jack Morrison? And what had he done to warrant such a response? Hours passed, and the diner grew quiet again. Katie couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental had just occurred. She sat at the counter, lost in thought, when the door opened once more. This time, it wasn't men in suits. It was a woman, dressed elegantly, her face lined with sorrow. The woman approached Katie, her eyes scanning the diner before settling on her. "You must be Katie," she said softly. Katie nodded, unsure of what to say. The woman took a deep breath. "I'm Jack's sister." Katie's eyes widened in shock. His sister? But he never mentioned. He wouldn't, the woman interrupted gently. "Jack has been running from our family for years. We've been searching for him, trying to bring him back, but he's always stayed one step ahead. Until tonight." Katie felt a pang of guilt. "I didn't know." The woman smiled sadly. "You couldn't have known. Jack, he's been through a lot. He made some mistakes, but he's not a bad man. He just lost his way." Katie's heart ached for Jack. She had only known him for a few hours, but in that short time, she had seen the kindness in him, the pain he carried. What's going to happen to him now? The woman's expression softened. "We're going to help him. Our family has the resources to get him back on his feet, to give him the support he needs. It won't be easy, but he's not alone anymore." Katie felt a sense of relief wash over her. Jack had been taken from the diner, but he wasn't lost. He had people who cared about him, who were willing to help him rebuild his life. The woman reached into her purse and handed Katie a small envelope. "Jack wanted me to give this to you. It's a letter." Katie took the envelope, her hands trembling. The woman smiled and nodded before turning to leave. As Katie opened the envelope, she found a handwritten note from Jack. It was simple, but it spoke volumes. "Dear Katie, I can never thank you enough for your kindness. You saw me when no one else did, and you reminded me that there's still good in this world. I'm going to face my past now, but I'll never forget what you did for me. You gave me hope when I had none. With gratitude, Jack Morrison." Katie smiled through her tears, feeling a sense of closure. She had defended a homeless man from harassment, and in doing so, she had touched his life in ways she could never have imagined. The men in suits may have taken Jack away, but they hadn't taken away the impact of her kindness. In a world that often seemed cold and cruel, Katie had made a difference. And that, she realized, was enough. The end.